Okay, we are live.
Hey, we're live. Oh, welcome back to another edition of Den of Thieves, the 100 Thieves podcast. We are here to talk about League of Legends. I am feeling a lot of emotions right now because I just finished the FlyQuest game, and I still am kind of drained. I'll be honest. I was super excited to start this week off with a really high energy, like, man, we are the team to beat, and I think we still are, but what a game that was. What a disappointing way to end it.
Best laid plans, man. I'm kind of feeling the same way. That was an emotional roller coaster, and there's going to be a lot to talk about with that. But
yeah,
first,
but a couple things first.
Let's back it up. Well, I'll do the thing that you always do.
Yep.
I'm Cole.
I'm Jordan, and that's the only thing we forgot of that part.
That's right, because we already said it's Den of Thieves. But I will say that we are expecting a little influx of new listeners this week, and so we figured we would revisit kind of the concept of this podcast just for a minute, so everyone could be familiar with what we're doing. We are not great at League of Legends.
No, not even close.
To put it mildly. We like the game, and we play casually, but if you are here for expert breakdowns of what happened in each game and really smart analysis of the game itself, this is maybe not your cup of tea.
I'll dabble, but that's as close as I'll get. I'll tell you what I think probably happened, and then you can pick out my shortcomings as I go.
But what we will do is we will focus exclusively on the 100 Thieves League of Legends team, but we will talk about the team in the macro picture, talking about the action on the Rift, as well as the stuff that's going on outside, like merch drops, team transactions, and the like. And I know
the other media too, Heist.
Yeah, that's right. Content coming out from the team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a traditional sports background, and so that's kind of how I am seeing the action unfold before me, and I will shed light from that angle.
You're also a very fashionable dude. I'll just say,
as I sit here in my black t-shirt. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we can revisit the fashion talk when we get to the merch drop today.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm a lifelong gamer, and really I watched Dota 2 for a while as a very casual observer. I basically watched the international, and that was it. But I played Dota when it was a mod for Warcraft. So I've known what this is for a long, long time. I just am about 6 or 7 years behind the curve on actually getting into it and figuring out what the heck I'm doing. So I've got some catching up to do.
Yeah, but we will. We're huge fans of 100 Thieves, and we're excited to continue to talk about what's going on with the team and what's going on with the brand. And let's actually start from this weekend's action.
Yep, and this will be the format. We always start talking about the games, and then we get into the other stuff. So, like I alluded to, what a great week of games. I mean, so far as excitement level goes, can't really beat it. Like I was riding high and then came plummeting back down to earth. But just a great showcase of what the team can do this weekend. First game against Echo Fox, rather. I'll let you kind of break down the picks and bans, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I actually, I didn't have a ton of notes on the pick and bans this time because I felt like there was only one or two kind of things that tripped me up, and one was not banning Zoe. We've had trouble against Zoe as a team, and I would have liked to see that ban come out, and it didn't. And I also would have liked to see someday on the Mundo again, but these are
interesting points. So let me give you a couple of my initial reactions on those two.
Please do.
Because I think that those are kind of the more notable things. Well, I think worth mentioning that Aphromoo on Shen was awesome. Like that was,
oh man,
that they should make an all-star event out of just that. Like how many kills can you show up and generate as support on Shen? Aphro would win it every time. But my thoughts on Zoe. So she has been kind of a
thorn in the side, man.
Yeah. We just can't shake her. and huge problem in this game too. But I thought we did a lot of things that were really smart in playing around that. So she was still poking us. She was still chunking our guys out huge, like half HP bars. But I feel like we made enough picks who had escape. Like everybody has some kind of escape, minus Darius. But multiple times we would see somebody get hit with the trouble bubble, and then they would dash away far enough that the rest of the team would be there and they could kind of protect it. So many of those bubbles landed and didn't really do anything. So I thought that was a pretty cool. It's almost like, you know, we didn't ban it, and I'm sure that it was a thought that was going to get picked up first. But I think the way we built our team, it showed that we were aware of the fact that she can be a huge problem for us, especially if we don't have any way to kind of disengage. So tons of disengage. I thought it was a great example of us kind of evolving our strategy to deal with something that's been a trouble spot for us in the past, or at least this split, especially.
Yeah, and we kind of needed that too, because you know, you look at what they drafted. Actually, let's run the draft.
Yeah.
So Someday was on Darius, Anda on Rakan, Ryu on Vladimir, Cody Sun on Zaya, Afro on Shen. Hoodie took Gangplank, Dardoch with Trundle, Demonte was, you know, at Zoe, as we mentioned before, Altec on Ezreal, and Feng as Morgana. Now, what I was going to say is that, you know, in addition to the Sleepy Trouble bubbles, you've got Trundle's Pillar and Morgana's Binding to deal with as well. So there's like some potential to really get a lot of, you know, CC issues going on. So I think, you know, with your point about the escape that some of these champions have, that was going to be absolutely necessary, seeing how the draft played out.
Yeah. And I mean, this was kind of a classic 100 Thieves game in my mind. Like, we started off behind. There were a couple plays where we just, you know, and I don't know what it is. It's something about the DNA of this team. We're kind of slow starters, you know, which is crazy. But a double kill in bot lane at 3 minutes. Or no, sorry, that was in mid, because that's where Cody was playing. But yeah, they both got picked off. And then he was there again at 420, Trundle, and he was there again at 5 minutes. So he's just camping mid, which I thought it shows kind of the evolution of the strategy there too, of they had an idea of how they were going to stop Cody's funnel, and it was to just camp mid basically nonstop.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because that looked like it was going to work. I was kind of distraught at how this game opened.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
We're so up and down with the team, and the word that started coming to mind for me was grit. Like, that's really the thing that stood out for me. I was like, I don't know if we were missing this before, you know, before our roster change or whatever. I don't, you know, I'm not sure where I stand on that statement. All I know is that we showed now some serious grit with how this happened. And it came from Aframu's leadership.
Yeah. 100%.
Like you said, his Shen play, like, it's been a while since I've watched an LCS game where I was like, oh yeah, that Shen really mattered.
Yeah.
But he absolutely brought the game back for them.
Oh, for sure. Well,
he just decided, you know what? I'm going to roam. I'm going to use my Stand United. I'm going to make sure that we don't let this thing slip away early.
Well, and this is now the second week in a row, I think, that you've made a very similar comment about Afro and his leadership and the way he just turns there's another level there. And in some games we see him turn it on and it stops a slide, or it holds the team together, or it generates enough kills and activity that we don't lose, you know, we don't fall completely behind, kind of irreconcilably so. And I think that's the true value of Afro. And I think we should revisit it a little bit, because when he's been in these more, when he's not had as much ability to show the leadership and kind of keep the team in it from bot lane, I feel like those are the games where we just don't keep it together as well, and where we question how well is he actually doing this split.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's funny that you say that, because going into last week, I had this thought in my mind that I was like, you know what? For the pod, I'm going to take a look at Afro's stats for this split and kind of compare him to last split, because I just think he's starting to fall off a cliff. And then the roster change happens.
Yep.
And suddenly Afro's like totally unlocked. And
it's true. It's true, man.
It's hard to say. Obviously, I'm not I'm not at the team house. I'm not in their comms. I don't know what's going on. But to me, it can't be coincidence that we're seeing that sort of thing.
I think that's a super important point, and I don't think we should overlook that. And I'll give you just a couple short thoughts, but I do want to let you finish that line of reasoning you're going with. I agree with you in that I think it's really hard when you have two vocal, dominant players in one squad. So we talk about Ryu being, you just watch the way they play. Ryu is clearly setting up so many of these plays, right?
Yeah.
So whether or not he is the one saying, you go here, you go there, I'll meet you over here. He just, like, some of those plays, it looks like he just shows up and he's like, all right, you know, hit him with your E and I'll flash over the wall and he's dead. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that worked.
Yeah, I'm going to do the hemo plate and you guys can catch up with me.
Right. Oh, the 1v5 on the Baron. Oh.
Dude, he was so nasty. And like, you know, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, all I wanted to say was, like, and I'm not going to take it back because I don't, but I have grown, I've developed a full new appreciation for Ryu this, and maybe it's just because I'm watching more closely. Like, I don't know. But I think in the same way you could say, like, Someday has become a carry threat every single game. Ryu, in my mind, is he the mastermind here? He's quite. I think in my mind, he's kind of a quiet mastermind behind so many of our plays, and just like we've seen 2 now games in the last 2 weeks where he has gone in solo on a Baron attempt and stopped them and turned it, which ended up, it's just like that's not an accident.
Yeah, and this is what, I think you were alluding to what the points that I had been making earlier in the split, where I thought the Ryu hate that I see on Reddit, that I see on Twitter, I thought it was completely misplaced. And like, he does have some games where he finishes with a bad stat line, or he just didn't quite make a big impact. But I'm telling you, that guy can play. And when you get him on the right champion with something he's familiar with, like a Vladimir,
yeah,
it is bad news for anybody else. And so I am not, I am not agreeing with these, calls to go ahead and bench Ryu, put Levi in there.
Far from that.
I watched how we play this week, and I'm feeling good. I'm good with this.
Absolutely. And that was, my note here is after that. I mean, it was actually, no, it's not. It was about 5/6 of the way through the FlyQuest game. I just wrote, we are the team to beat in NA. And we would have been sole top of the chart if we didn't lose that base race, which in my mind, losing a base race it's not even a coin flip, because so it's kind of like we're tied for first with an asterisk in my mind.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure, because I was kind of feeling similar to you, but I just think that the way that the team playing is now we are in a good position, and that's insane to say when Anda's been playing for 2 weekends.
Yeah, a couple things I think we should touch on really quickly. Anda played really well again, like a really good game.
They let him have the Rakan.
Yeah, he ended up 0-4-11, which
and
he died.
A couple of those kills were really just unlucky.
Yeah, and there's one where he went in to save, I think either somebody else or 2 other people. No, I think he basically dashed in, used his ult, and then was just like, he was around 4 dudes. So okay, he's gonna die. But I've been really liking some of the play I've seen from him. I think he has a very selfless play style, which we see when he is in the funnel, I think especially so. But even when he was playing as and again, this is getting next to him, I think that's just more his play style. I think he is a more supportive jungler, which with this team comp is exactly what we need. So
yeah, well, and I wouldn't say I think when we use the word supportive, there may be a connotation in League about like stepping back a little bit, like playing safe and like, I don't think that's really it. I think it's more of a complimentary jungler.
I think that's
right.
Better word.
And they give him the mission and he goes and does, like, he's like, in U571 when Matthew McConaughey is like sending that dude to like his death to turn on the torpedoes or whatever. He's like, get in there and do your job, soldier. Like, that Anda's cool with that. And he's making those plays. And after such a short time with the team to have him. He's had like one bad game, and that was because they clearly targeted him.
They clearly, yeah. I think. Are you talking about the game last week where we played traditional?
Yeah, and so he is just fine in my mind. And
yeah. Well, and when we put him on recon, I didn't think twice about it. I didn't even think for a second. I like, oh, I wonder how this will go.
Yeah.
Support champ, No, he's got it. So I'm on board. Like, he's shown me that he's here to play. He's got what it takes. So I'm all on it. And I don't think there's any question in my mind that it's between him and Levi. Like, it's him.
Right. Especially with, the implications that we've talked about for the rest of the team.
Yes.
So let us not proceed without giving even more attention to Someday, because holy cow, man, I love this kid so much. It makes me so happy to watch him play. He finished 7-1-6 on Darius. He was dunking on people.
Yeah, he had a couple good dunks.
And he just he's so confident and fearless that it's just
he had that one.
Set it and forget it for the team. Okay, Someday you do your thing, man, and then we'll work the rest of the map.
Well, and I think a beautiful illustration of that is, so here's how you stop the Cody's on funnel. You camp mid lane. Problem being, now Someday is there. It's just like
eating Hoodie alive.
You can do that, and Hoodie is not a mid-tier top laner. I mean, he is definitely premier top laner. In the league. So
he went 2-6-2 on Gangplank.
That's Someday. That's that solo kill he got on him was just awesome, dude. It was so good. And you could tell. I mean, he's got his swagger. There was a moment there where he could have disengaged, and I think Hoodie was happy enough to let him leave and just say, like, okay, this didn't work out. We'll top lane this. I'll see you in 30 seconds. But he turned around and he had probably 300 hit points, and he's just like, I'm in.
Yeah. No, I'm going to do this thing.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So obviously, he played great. Afro played great, especially early. Cody eventually came online with the Xayah after that rough start.
8-2-4.
That 8-2-4 was Ryu's line, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, do I have that backwards?
Ryu was 2-1-7.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so I have their stat line backwards on my paper, so I apologize. But yeah, so he came online. Ryu
and 8-2-4. He died a couple times early, and he didn't die again.
And it was never again. But yeah, there's just again just grit, like seeing the way they were resilient when bad things happened. They took risks that were calculated that ended up paying off, and they're not going to pay off every time, but at least you go down fighting over like an important objective like Baron or Elder Dragon. Or in our case, if Ryu does the hemoplate right, we get both, like what happened here. 2-for-1. That resilience is the thing that turned the game. And I think that was just the story of the game. Like, this team has some real grit, and they're not, I mean, maybe it's in the wake of that Golden Guardians game. They're just like, no, we're never going to roll over again.
Yeah. And I'll be interested to see if this continues to kind of be the DNA of the team. Right. And if the reason that we decided that Meteos and the team needed to go different ways is partially because he wasn't bought into kind of this mentality as much as the rest of the squad was. I think when you switch somebody out, right, all of that is amplified in other people if it's not there in the 5 men you've got playing. And I'm not accusing him of being not that kind of player, but it's just an interesting thing that, like, in this game, we were impossible to kill. There were so many team fights that we lost, and we were in a bad spot, and we walked away with 5 champions alive. How often has I can't think of a time. And it wasn't like we had an incredibly tanky lineup or tons of, we just were playing super smart. It felt to me like a very mature game. And I think that's a really encouraging thing, because if we can keep that maturity going, the team is going to get better and better. No doubt.
Yeah. Now, and the maturity is going to be even more important with how the team reacts to this FlyQuest game.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move into that. The draft, they banned Zoe. They finally banned Zoe.
Yeah.
I was so happy. And one of the first bans, in fact, maybe the first ban from FlyQuest was the Rakan. So that made me feel good too, because it's like, all right, and you're getting noticed, man. and it was, it's probably about that funnel too, trying to shut down Cody Sun's Xayah funnel. Yeah. But it's just calling attention to that, and that's fantastic. And when he locked Kindred in, I really I was unsure about how that would play out. I didn't want to see too much experimentation because I wanted so badly to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
So when the funnel wasn't a possibility any longer for us, I was, a little uneasy, but we saw Someday lock in the Mundo, so you knew that everything was taken care of there. Ryu took Rise, which, is one of those champions where if you can play it, it's amazing. It's a really high skill level champion, but Ryu is Ryu. So Cody Sun took Lucian, Aphromu took Alistar, which is a known quantity there. On the other side, Flame took Gangplank into Someday again. Santorin took Trundle, Keen on Orianna, Wild Turtle on Varus, and JJ on Braum. Big Braum.
What a game. I think
you don't know where to start.
my opening line is, I think there are 100 positives you can take from this game, and there's one negative, and the negative is that we lost. I think everything went incredibly well. I mean, you look at, FlyQuest is now in a tie for first, right?
Yeah, they're no joke.
They're no joke. This is not, I mean, they have had a very similar arc as we have this split. This is a top tier team with a couple of top tier picks, right? The Varus Braum combo for them, they have been on fire with. And with an asterisk, that streak continues now. It shouldn't have, and and we really expose them in a lot of ways. But we talked about last week, this is an experiment. We're playing traditional. What are we going to do? Nerfs are coming to funnel. We should be concerned. Man, if we play like this, I'm not going to say that the split's in the bag or anything like that, but this was an incredibly strong showing. This is probably one of the most dominant performances I've seen from Thieves.
Yeah, and that's the big takeaway here is I already saw, I check in with Reddit and I watch a little bit of the Twitter response too, and people are already losing their minds, how do we lose this? I'm done with this and blah, blah, blah. No. This is 1 out of 300 games will play out this way. Right. The other 299, that's an easy steamroll win. And, if the mistake was maybe Someday overplayed a little bit on the Mundo and him going down kind of turned it or whatever, you get shutdown gold going over or just from late game, it becomes more important to keep people on the Rift. So going one man down can really turn it. It's such a small thing, and we still were an inch away from win.
Yeah.
What would everybody have been saying if we won the base race? I think people would still have been wow, I can't believe we almost threw that game or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think people would be in the same mindset.
No.
And so I think everybody just needs to calm down. We, for 98% of the game, we absolutely devastated a team who is tied for first place.
Yes. Yeah. And
with again, Anda, who's playing his 4th game with the team.
Right. Including that game. That was his 4th game with the team.
That was his 4th game for the team.
And he had a great game on Kindred, which is not a champ we've seen played in our squad. And being, again, the complementary player that he appears to be, he saved a couple people with his ult, which was awesome. So, again, you look at everybody's performance. Ryu had some awesome plays on Rise, some really good uses of his ult. I just feel like he's a super dangerous Rise player, and so I feel good when he's on Rise. Like our rotations were super strong. Ryu was going up to the top lane. Bot came up to mid, kept everything together. Yeah, it's. I think the only way you can look at this game and be like disappointed, or that's not right, because of course you're disappointed to lose. The only way you look at this game and feel like the team was not performing is if you only look at the result, which I think is not the right way to do it.
Yeah, like even the stat lines is like, oh, 100 Thieves won that one.
Yeah,
you know, and I feel I feel a little bad for Someday even, because like, so he's going to submit a stat line of 2, 1, and 2 right for this game.
Yeah,
that is the most understated 2, 1, 2 ever.
Yeah,
like I multiple times I was like, this, he has to be the MVP this split. He has to be the NA MVP.
We've been saying now for I think at least 2 weeks, at least the last 2, maybe 3 weeks. I think we maybe started this conversation in week 2.
He is so imposing, and like, did you see his he turret dove on Hoodie and then hit the stopwatch right he hit the stopwatch under turret, like he's like, no, you're not getting out of this one, man.
Well, and the beauty of it was he hit the stopwatch. He had his ult going, so while he was in stasis, he regened about half his health bar, and he had his fireballs going. So he hit his stopwatch about half second or second later. So the other guy came out of stasis and was getting burnt down by his fire. Like, it's insane. It's insane stuff. Like, it wasn't amazing. Like he didn't bust his stopwatch to just survive and escape. He busted it to complete the dive one-on-one.
And it's looking like, he's going to finally go down or whatever. Yeah. And then it's just like, this makes this amazing play. Like, I bet when we get to the end of this split, you can have like a 5-minute reel of crazy like caster reactions to Someday plays. That'll be like super entertaining. So 100 Thieves, if you're listening, do that. Man, he's just been playing that way every week.
The hype reel for Someday, man. Start the campaign now. Like, this guy's got to pick up MVP.
I'm so proud to have him on the team, and he's so fun to watch. And again, little slip up at the end that by some crazy twist of fate ends up costing us the game, but do not overreact to it, please.
Well, and I think there are 2 kind of levels of reaction. One is the fan reaction, like, we're fine. Be calm. We're fine. There's a coach reaction too, though, which I think there were. I mean, here I had a note, and it was just closing out game. Like, there were a couple times we were in their base, we'd broken their base, we had supers coming in, and that's when they got like a pick on Someday. Like, it was just 5-on-1. You know, we didn't really have enough pressure in the other lanes to really punish them for it. So before we lost, and that's where I think the coach thing comes in. Like, I'm sure probably watched that game and was like, how do we give that up? Because it wasn't just like, well, League is a gimmicky game, and they started running a second before we did, and we crossed paths. And I mean, to Fly's credit, they did stuff leading up to that base race that allowed them to get the win. So, like, GG, they played it well. They shut down an incredibly imposing Mundo, and they recognized when they were going 1-3-1 that they had an opportunity, and they took it. So credit to them. Like, this is a legit squad. They
decisively took that option, and they said, we're going to live and die by this, and it paid off for them. So you're right. GG to them.
Yeah, that was their 1 win condition at that point in the game, and they jumped on it. Yeah. So I think like they can feel really good about that. It is one of those where I hope the coaching side, I know they will, because every time there's a loss, I'm sure they do. They can go back and look at that and just talk about what happened and but overall, macro sense, like, we were just
the only little dark cloud that I would say for this is how tight the race for playoffs is going to be. So it reminds me of the NBA Western Conference this past season when there were 3 games that separate, like, the top 8 teams from that conference go, right? And there were 3 games separating number 3 and number 9 in an 82 game season. So I think that's in a situation where hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us because everybody's, clawing for those playoff spots. I don't think it will. I think if we continue to play this way, like, we're going to be the team to beat. But maybe we should just like have that little bookmark in this conversation, and maybe we'll look back in this game and it'll be more important than we thought it was. But I think we'll be okay.
I do too. But I mean, it's a good point to bring up in that in a split where there's so much parity, one win can change things in a big way. I sure hope it doesn't come down to that, because then we look back at this and say, like, how could we let the season slip? And that, if we don't make playoffs, we're not going to go to Worlds either. So I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I mean, this could have a big impact. But like macro, long term, I feel great. I feel like we're in a really good spot, man.
Yeah, and hats off to Anda for doing what he's done.
Yeah,
and hats off to the coaching staff for making that possible for him.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta think, if you're 100 Thieves, that this is working out better than we anticipated. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be surprised in a good way with the way this is going. And it speaks to Anda himself. It speaks to Prawley. It speaks to the other members of the team. And instead of wallowing in pity that they, lost Medios.
Right. And that it didn't go as well as it could have. And it kind of was taken badly by the community. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big deal. So with that in mind, let's move on to the heist.
Yes.
Which is interesting because there's a long time where there were no heist episodes, and everybody was really wanting to hear what the team would say, how they would portray, what went on. So if you haven't watched the heist, pause, go watch it. It's an amazing series anyway. So make sure that's on your
start from step one.
Yeah. But the opening was interesting. They went with a pretty much unscripted soliloquy from Nadeshot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something like 6 minutes long of him just talking about the trade, about how everything happened, and owning up to some of the mistakes they made, with the messaging,
the delay.
Yeah. And he's saying we had things ready to go, but we didn't feel good about them. We want to handle it the right way, but it is the elephant in the room. I'm glad that they did that. But I feel split on whether I think it's necessary. And I'm not sure that we should be expecting so much detail when these sort of things happen. Like, it doesn't seem to me to serve the team interest to give a long-winded explanation of everything that happened. And some people will listen to that and not see it as a long-winded explanation of what happened, because it's like, oh, well, what was the timeline? What was this? What was that? There are some details that, we still are a little cloudy on, but I don't think the team really owes us that much of an explanation when they make a transaction.
Yeah.
So I think we're lucky to have that. And I also think they're taking a little bit of a risk of putting more information out there. There's more ways to trip up, more ways to come off not as positively as you could. And
what were some of the things you heard that fell into that column for you?
For stuff that maybe makes you look not as good?
Yeah, stuff that you question, like, do we really need to know that?
So I would say the big thing, and this isn't so much an issue with the heist itself as it is the combination between the heist and an interview that Prawley gave to Travis I think it was last weekend. I don't think Prawley has been on message with the rest of the team. I think he has been a little more unprepared to have those conversations. And so his timeline is not very accurate, and it seems to conflict with Nadeshot's timeline a little bit. So the combination of those things is where I'm really seeing the risks being taken. And so I just think it's safer left unsaid. But
it's like the level of detail is like, well, who really came to whom and who said what when, and did he say that first, or was it after we'd already brought it up to him, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, but what we do know from, what was said was that Medios requested a trade. So that, that's one of the biggest question marks, is splitting hairs on what actually happened. And I think with so much time going into the preparation for this, I think when he says Medios requested a trade, he means Medios requested a trade. I hope, I honestly, I think it shows some sensitivity to the fans from 100 Thieves side, that they came out and did this, because again, I don't think they're obligated to, and I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to, for their own good, but they know how much Medios meant to the fans.
Yep.
And they care about how the fans think about them. And that says something for the executive staff. So kudos to them for seeing that and for lack of a better word, taking a risk.
Well, I if you look at it from a business perspective, there's some math going on behind the scenes here, right? Where you have to think about how many people are going to leave us because of this decision. And like we talked about last week, how many people were here because they're Medios fans, and now that Medios isn't here, they're no longer Thieves fans. And so I think what you need to do is figure out, is that number big enough that we need to revisit this, and that we need to talk about it again? We need to try to explain ourselves. We need to give people another reason to stick around if they've left. And I think in that equation, you need to think about, is there anything that you can do? Or is it truly just that they like Medios, and so now they're FlyQuest fans, FlyQuest Academy fans, right? So my sense is they must have thought about that and talked about that and said, this is enough that it's been 3 weeks. We have Anda here. He's doing well. He seems to be well received by the group. I guess you might have a better sense of that than I do, but he's certainly playing in a way that would make people excited to have him on the squad, right? Like, he's not come in and just stunk it up. So to me, if they have a sense that that's why you do a video like this, then I think it's a fine thing to do. But I do wonder, like, what is the math on that, and how close is it? And is it one where you're better served to just say, you guys know what happened. Medios told you what happened. We put out a statement. We're moving on. Yeah. I don't know.
You're right about that. Option. And I think that's, a question that we'll obviously never be able to answer definitively. And all of our thoughts on this are speculation, as we always say. But, I think you're right. And I think the team needs to eventually choose the team in the long run. I mean, this is franchising now. The team's going to be around. The players are not. The team is going to outlast the players. Yep. And it would serve them to shift the focus from the players onto the team. And you see how that plays out with some of the valuable, like, NFL franchises, for example, the Packers or the Lions. Or the Cowboys, not the Lions. Ooh, not the Lions. But the Cowboys, it's about the team more than it's about the players. And
right. It's America's team. It's the Cowboys.
Yeah. And hopefully the team decides to make that choice, and hopefully the fans understand and sort themselves out. I'm a 100 Thieves fan, or I'm a Medios fan. It's fine to be whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
And
it would be super interesting.
Plus, isn't Medios having a laugh today at the team's expense with FlyQuest win? So
I would say so.
It's I didn't even need to play.
They didn't put him in the lineup. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a little bit of him that's disappointed that he didn't get a chance to go. But and especially up until the last 2 minutes of the game, where he's like, wow, they are getting embarrassed and shellacked right now.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, kudos to Nate Shot for doing that. It was an unedited, uninterrupted kind of thing that seemed to me like, he has an outline of what he's going to say, but it's unscripted. I think that was a good way to make that statement.
Which on that point, we've said it before, that's Nate Shot at his best. Like, I think that's one of the things that sets Thieves apart, is they have such a charismatic CEO. He founded the group, right? Like, he is well suited for this landscape. New media, right? This is like a new media team, and he is the new media pro.
Yeah.
So reinforced again that he does well when you put him in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm. He does. So that being said, the other big thing that stood out to me from the heist was the general attitude and approach that focused on the coaching,
I love that, dude.
which I thought was interesting because they really they not only gave Prawley a chance to really openly talk about his philosophy on coaching and his own performance,
Mhm.
as well as what's at stake for him. I loved him mentioning how, like, this was my roster, and I told them I
Yeah.
believe I can get this roster to Worlds. Like, I loved hearing that from him, and it was interesting that now is the time that we talk about Prawley and the coaching.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and I think it's always hard. Another thing I really like about the Heist lately is that they're pulling in audio straight from the dive.
which is an excellent podcast. And I want to just pause there and say, if you're
Yes.
not, well, it's a show too. So if you're not watching the dive or listening to the dive, please do. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Whatever those guys get paid, they are not being paid enough.
Yeah. And they talk about the game in a way that I don't think anyone else living can. And that seems like hyperbole, but I don't think it is, because they are both, I mean, they cover so many bases, right? They're right employees. They've been playing League for years and years and years. They're, excellent, highly skilled players. And so they just bring it all. It's the full package. And I love the topics they hit on the future of the game. And the coaching piece is where they really spent some time in last week's episode of The Dive, just talking about, like, what is it that sets NA apart? And one of the things they touched on is coaching.
So. Yeah, and it was crazy because, like, I was like preparing to talk about this stuff already. Like, I had the same kind of thoughts about, like, I always harp on the maturity of players and the challenge that is, especially, just with the subset of people that happen to be gamers more frequently. I think, you see maturity issues, and having people that are basically your peers in a coaching role is just difficult. It's not like it's not like you're a 20-year-old with a 60-year-old coach that has been doing this for longer than you've been alive.
Yes. 100%. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, think of the best coaches at every sport. Because one of the things they bring up is, these league pros are better than the coaches, right? But look at any other sport, right? Like Wooden. He was a guy who couldn't beat anybody one-on-one, but is, at the point in his career that he was regarded as the best coach, he wasn't going to go out and beat anybody, but his mind was on a whole nother level. And so I feel like that's where, just as a sport matures, we need to get to the point, I think, where there's a recognition or an understanding of that, of, probably told us that we need to, do X, Y, and Z things. And so even though I know how to play the game and I can outplay the game, versus him, I'm going to remember all the things he told me, because he just thinks about the game in a different way. And I don't know. It's hard for me to make that assessment, right?
Yeah. Well, in traditional sports, you have Father Time taking care of that for you,
Right.
where the people who are best at playing will play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if the coach could do it better than you, he would be playing.
Right.
Right. And there's no question about that when, you're rubbing Bengay on your knees after, standing for an hour on the sideline. That's just not the case in the league. Even if some of the coaches are older and are maybe have aged out of their professional careers or whatever, which is crazy that happens so young. But there just needs to be a conscious decision from players and from teams to set the coaches as more of an authority figure. So I agree with that sentiment. I mean, LCK, LPL, from all accounts, they do a better job of this. And those are the regions that are so tough to beat.
Yep.
That's clearly not a coincidence.
I had another thought, and I do think, there are all the things that people bring up about NA and why it's not as strong a league. And I do think a big part of it is it's just not, we don't have the player base. There's not as many people playing League at that high level. But one of the things I think is really interesting right now is I was thinking about, racking my brain, what other traditional sports do you have where the coach is there to prepare you before the game and immediately leading up to the game, and then is 100% absent during the game. And I think there's some that come to mind, but I don't even know if I could think of one that was truly 100% like the coach is just out of it. Because I think that contributes to how much the coach can influence the players, and how much it's more just like they're almost more like a mentor than a coach, right?
Yeah, and you can point to individual sports where that's the case. You have swimming, you have tennis,
right? But even tennis, like I feel like the coach will sit in the stands and they'll interact in some way. Yeah. I thought of that one too. Mm-hmm. But swimming is an example.
But with team sports, you're definitely right. There's typically a communication constantly going back and forth with a coach. But
like even football, where you've got like when the ball is snapped, the quarterback has somebody in his ear, right?
Well, technically they cut off mics. I think it's like something like 10 seconds left in the play clock or something. Okay. So there's a point where they do cut off the mics. So during plays, they can't, be.
So he couldn't be like, hey, behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Not that you'd have time, if you're
right.
a pass rush, but yeah, there's a communication there up to a certain point for sure. And I actually think that maybe it was the Dive, maybe it was Esports, their podcast where they brought this up as well. So it's it's definitely a good point, but bringing it full circle back to Prawley, like watching him talk about the challenges that coaching brings, it still sounds like he's in control.
Yeah, I think so. And he's coach of the split, right? So like I think the things we think of when we talk about the challenges of being a coach in NA, I don't know that they apply to him, because he's been immensely successful. He's taken a brand new organization to the finals, right? So clearly something's working, and it's working very well.
Yeah, and now, with the Meteos trade, it looks like it's a little smoother for them internally. Yeah. So, right. So you've removed friction from a system that already produced a first place regular season finish.
Right. Yeah,
and be mad at that.
I'm guessing that he was a primary driver on that decision. Like we've talked before, how we don't know who is really making that, but you got to figure he was heavily involved, and so like his judgment has shown to be good. And one of the other thoughts I had is, I think if we did best of threes, there'd be another opportunity for the coach to learn and reflect with the team in between games and say, like there's just no reaction time, right? So when we played Clutch earlier this split, it's been a while. We're going to play them next week. It's been a while, right? Like a lot has changed since then. Mm-hmm. So there's just not as much chance for them to, on the fly, provide the level of insight and analysis that a player who is the best at that position might not be able to do, just because their strengths might be in performing, not thinking about strategies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's fewer opportunities for coaches to do that when you have best of ones.
Mm. Well, in any case, I definitely enjoyed getting a look at that, and the positive tone of, the end of the heist, even with the Golden Guardians loss. Clearly the team is not focused on the negatives of that loss. They're focused on a bright future, and I think they have every reason to. So
yeah.
All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the merch drop. Everybody's been clamoring for merch. Where the merch at? Well, the merch has dropped. It has come. It is gone.
I'd say where the merch at? It's at your house shortly.
And so you guys know it shortly will be at my house, and we will do a live review of this on our podcast whenever it comes. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'll have it with me. I'll show it to you, and we'll talk a little bit about it. I'll just say this. So it's the geography hoodie. It's black. It's got the like infrared red looking interesting pattern on it. It looks like it comes from Maps, I think, hence the name.
Is it stitched? It looks stitched.
I don't think so. I think, we'll see. I don't think it's really stitched in there. I think that would be pretty cost prohibitive, which is another point. So the price point on this was a little bit higher than people were anticipating, I think, for a hoodie. It came in at $85 plus shipping. So for people in the US, maybe that's not such a big deal. But that, those costs really add up if you're an international fan. Even in Canada, shipping was pretty expensive from what I hear. And in some other countries, you may be paying some import duties and all that stuff. So it was a little bit higher of a price point. Now, they have been preaching quality with this thing. This is not a ton of Gildan hoodies that they went and had screen printed. This is something that they built from the ground up, 100% to their specifications, made in Los Angeles, and out of a purportedly quality material. So I think we're just gonna have to get it in our hands before we make a judgment on that. But my initial take is, given what I saw in the design of the hoodie and the materials that it's made out of, I think the 85 price point was fair. I am hoping that it delivers. I worry that they're preaching quality a little too much and they might underwhelm some people. I'm going to be a particularly hard person to please, for reasons that we don't need to go into in depth here, but I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the quality of clothing. And I'm waiting patiently to get that thing into my hands. I live in Nashville. I'm not gonna be able to wear it for, probably until November or something like that. But I'm excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah. I am too, by the way.
Yeah, good, cool. So Jordan, you were not on for the drop, is that correct?
No, I was at the Wisconsin Dells at a water park.
Yeah. So you were if you stepped away from this drop, if you were 22 minutes late to the drop, you did not get to participate, which is something to speak about as well. So I will say I treated this like the jersey and dad hat drop, where I was logged on, ready to go with my credit card like copied onto the clipboard, 10, 15 minutes early. When the site first refreshed for the store to be able to start purchasing, the server crashed. But it came right back up. It was like 10, 15 seconds. That's quite a stress test, to put it through. And I have seen much worse. Like when I've done some of the Yeezy drops and whatnot, where everything's broken the whole time, and it's really luck of the draw if you're going to get product. This was, fairly, if you are logged on at the time when the drop happens, which was announced a week in advance, you were going to get your stuff.
That's good.
Now, they also, 100 Thieves has said that they had elevated stock levels for this. So this was not quite as limited of a release as the jerseys were. The jerseys sold out in something like 8 to 10 minutes.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Which is crazy, especially for that kind of product. This time with elevated stock levels, I saw smalls and mediums were around for 8 minutes. Then they sold out. Large, extra large were around for another like 10 minutes or something. So by 22 minutes, they had sold through everything, and they went from sizes extra small all the way up to 4XL.
Wow.
And if you are going to do a drop system, right? If you're going to like hype it up like this and do limited stuff, you can't, if you get your mind right about the approach that they were taking, this was well done. There was enough there. There was, the server was sturdy enough to handle what happened. And, I do feel sympathy for people who weren't able to be on right at that moment. If you had something come up, it might've cost you the drop, which sucks. But the word on the street is they will continue to do drops more frequently. So it won't be 4 months in between them. It might be a matter of 3 weeks or so until the next drops. So with that being said, Jordan, what are your thoughts on the drop system? Like, instead of having merch continuously available, they've made a conscious decision to do it this way. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it. I mean, it certainly gets people talking, right? And it's certainly different from anybody else. And I think that it would feel different if it was like, we're gonna screen print 200 t-shirts and we'll sell them to you guys on Friday. So make sure you sign online. It's quality stuff. And so I'm okay with that. The thing that I don't get fully is, like, I just want to buy a sticker. I want to put a sticker on my computer that says 100 Thieves. I want to rep the team and the brand that I'm a fan of. And I feel like that's where it feels to me like they need to provide more options. Because I think there are, and that's one of the things I think is really cool about, or that I really enjoy about esports, is there is a sense of community you get, whether it's another 100 Thieves fan or somebody who likes Cloud9 or whatever, because we all like this thing together and we can all relate to it in a way that other people watch and they're like, but you just watch them play computer games, or what do you, is there a gambling mechanic? Are you playing it with them? Right. So it's fun. And I think that's where I always appreciate the opportunity to create those connections. And a quick anecdote on that. So I'm also a Premier League soccer fan. And I saw a guy at the park with his kid wearing a Spurs hat, which is a team I follow. And so we had an instant connection. And we talked about Spurs for 5 minutes, and then he pieced out and we went our separate ways. But it was just, it was a cool thing. It was like a moment in time where you're like me, you like the same stuff I like. So I wish they would provide more ways for me to do that. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So, my thoughts on it are, I'm kind of fine with whatever approach the team wants to take. I think 100 Thieves is something that's pretty amorphous, and because it's like, what is it? Mm-hmm. It's, they do have a team for League of Legends, Crash Royale. They have like a Fortnite squad, right?
Streamers. They got streamers now.
They have streamers, but they're also like, they're also a video production company when you really think about it.
Yeah. Clothing design.
Like, it's almost like, there's the clothing line of 100 Thieves. It's not the team merch. It's just the clothing line of 100 Thieves. Right. Now, obviously, it's tied in so closely. If you're selling a jersey for the team,
yeah,
that's being worn by the LCS
merch.
Team, whatever. It's team merch. But
for the hoodie,
I think in terms of how they're thinking of it, this is a clothing line, right?
Right.
And so maybe what you do is you have a separate thing. Like maybe you have the 100 Thieves clothing line, and then you have like some specific merch. Like if you want to do stickers or whatever, which by the way, you get stickers if you order the drop stuff. They will come with stickers, just so you know. Yeah, so maybe, you do a little bit of stuff like that, but I don't think they're really out to cash grab. No. I also don't think they're out to screw over fans. So a lot of people are upset that they can't get this stuff. I think as we go along and the business is developed, they're going to have a better idea of the kind of deals they can cut with suppliers, manufacturers, what their stock levels should be. They might, settle on someone who produces a product that they really like, where they can set something up to have some things continuously available.
Yeah.
Or at least available for like an entire season instead of like a quick drop.
Right.
I think that's within the realm of possibility. And obviously they only know this, but I have heard them say that you can expect more drops going forward. Now, it doesn't mean exclusively drops necessarily. Maybe it does, maybe that's what they will do. But we know that we can expect more merch drops, right, and hopefully more frequently as well. I'm cool with it, man. I think there is something about when you make a sacrifice and you have a story to tell about, the thing that aligns you with the brand. Mm-hmm. So you talk to people who like buy Supreme.
Yeah.
It's about the story of acquiring it, right?
Right.
It's more than like the item itself. It's like, it's a proof that you're in the scene, mm-hmm, and that you've gone to great lengths to acquire it. Because either you paid a crap load of money on the resale, which is true for 100 Thieves, by the way.
Yep.
Or you made the sacrifice to be there in the moment, mm-hmm, and get it. And so you have a story to tell, like, oh, like the people who were there for the drops, like if you're on Discord, everybody's just talking about it. Like, oh, last time this happened. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got one now, blah, blah, blah.
So it increases the community even further.
Right. It's fun to tell those stories. And then like what, if 100 Thieves is still awesome 10 years down the road and you've got a season 1 jersey.
Yeah.
In your house, like that is just like a way. Yeah. It's so cool to show how long you've been there, because you could only get that at that point.
That's very true. That's a good way to think about it.
Right?
Do you still have your jersey, by the way?
Yes, I do.
Are you going to keep it boxed up?
I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not one to wear the jerseys. So I may actually like hang it or something, or like, just use it while we do the podcast or whatever. But
yeah.
But yeah, there's a story to be told with it, and I think that's fun. You talk to like sneakerheads, you talk to Yeezy fans, you talk to Supreme fans, you talk to Off-White fans. That's what they like to do. And 100 Thieves, if they want to play the long game on this and just make the brand the cool brand, that's fun.
Yeah,
it stands out. They're the only team doing that in NA. Like,
well, and to that point, there are other ways you can provide opportunities for people to rep your team, do a little free advertising than apparel, right? Sure. There are other ways that fans can do that if they want to.
Yep.
I don't think the two are exclusive.
Right. So in any case, yes, we'll have a hoodie here as soon as they ship it to me. The following Sunday, we'll review it here. We'll take a look at it and see if it passes the quality at the price point test. Which
I'm excited.
I'm not expecting like Margiela quality clothing or anything, but
I don't even know what that is.
I will judge it according to its price point, and we'll see. How they.
When I introduced you or mentioned you as a fashionable guy, I think that is not technically accurate, because fashionable means that you're like a trendy, in my mind, trendy dresser. You're a man who knows about quality clothing. I should restate that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I'm not like a hype beast or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I do like to indulge sometimes, and I like to see things that are high quality. So
it's a match made in heaven.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to segue into the contest.
Oh yeah, do that.
So this week, kind of on like out of nowhere, no notice, Rocket Mortgage announced a contest to meet the 100 Thieves, and this was like a Twitter caption contest. They released a series of GIFs, which were pretty cool. Some of them were like a little awkward, but for the most part, like it was a cool set of GIFs. And you were to follow Rocket Mortgage and tweet out a caption to one of these 100 Thieves GIFs. And then 2 people got their tweets selected as winners, and they get flown to LA, and they get to I think it's have lunch and dinner with the team and VIP tickets to the games for a weekend. It's pretty cool thing, pretty awesome way to get involved, to get close to the players, especially for people who can't be there because they don't live in LA. That's so crushing. Like the last time I went to LA for work, I was out there in between spring split.
Right.
Actually, I think MSI like finished up right as I got to LA. So it's like I had no chance to like. I actually did go by the LCS studio and everything, but I had no chance to like participate in that. And that's kind of sad. So it's cool that they're doing something like this to get people the chance.
Super cool. Yeah, it would be an awesome opportunity, especially having seen the spaces that I'm sure you go through, right? Going to the Rocket Mortgage team house, going to LCS studio. Like for those who've never been to LA, this would be a cool trip, especially with somebody who's been. I hope that the fans who wanted have been around for a while, and will enjoy it. I'm sure they will.
Yeah, it seemed like since it was kind of sudden, it seemed kind of niche and everything. Like I would anticipate that the people who won are genuine, and that's cool. That's good for them. And kudos to the team and to Rocket Mortgage for finding ways to continue to work that partnership, because it's got to be not an easy thing to be an esports team and to be proving your worth to your sponsors. And clearly this one's like a little bit different because Dan Gilbert is in charge of Quicken Loans, and there's tie-in there. So clearly, they are closely aligned, but at the same time, like they're making honest steps to try and make that partnership make sense. And that's cool. It's cool to see. Like, I think we will see sponsorship evolution really go through the roof as franchising has been instituted, and brands know that there's some permanence to the teams.
Right. So
we're going to see more and more things that are not like gaming products be sponsored.
That's true. It's a good point.
And I'm excited for that. So
yeah, that's a good example of that. Anything else on our list other than next week?
No, let's do next week. Let's talk about it. We'll do this briefly.
Week. We have bottom of the barrel Clutch Gaming at 4-6. Can you believe how bad their record is? I'm kidding. They're like 2 games out of first place. They did go 0-2 this week, though. They lost to TSM and FlyQuest. So another game in the storied rivalry between these two organizations. I think from what I'm hearing that Clutch is in a pretty rough spot, though. I mean, they were 4-4 at the start of this week, so I'd say it's not an emergency, but it seems like they're kind of losing their identity a little bit just in the middle of the split.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go for the W.
The W for 100 Thieves. Yeah, I think with how we've played in 3 out of the last 4 games, like I feel comfortable with us being able to take them, even though technically they're only 2 games behind. I think we'll handle our business, and get the win. But I kind of get the feeling that we may see a standard comp again, and I anticipate that it will take us a little longer to pull off that victory.
Yeah, I also believe we'll see standard. I will be interested to see if we see any funnel, because I think they'll be on 8.14 next week, which has some of the nerfs to funnel. I'm feeling a lot less trepidation about that than I did at the start of this weekend, though. So it'll be good. I mean, I feel like we always beat Clutch anyway, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
But as I pointed out earlier, it's not always. I
know. I'm kidding. Hopefully this one is not another heart attack game. Yeah. And then CLG, which is a team I've been surprised to see doing as well as they have. Although, so they came into the weekend 5-3. They lost 2 this weekend as well. So we have 2 0-2 teams up next weekend.
What is going on?
They will be hungry for a win. They lost to Golden Guardians and they lost to Liquid. And I haven't watched the highlights, but I am wondering if this was another Mickey goes off game against Guardians. So
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
That guy's insane. And look at that. So you said a loss to Liquid, lost to Golden Guardians. Liquid is tied for first with us. Golden Guardians is 5-5, aka 1 game behind. So
yeah,
I do not know what's going to happen in this game.
It's the season of there are not a lot of bad teams. Like it feels like every game we're going to play is a game against top competition, and I think Clutch feels a little bit less like that right now. But I think CLG is a dangerous team. I think we're going to win.
So you've got us going 2-0.
2-0. I mean, we were a fraction of a smidge away from 2-0 this weekend. Our pick rate is solid. I think we got 2-0 in us.
Yeah. Well, I really want to refrain from making a prediction on this one, but that's not fair play. I just have a bad feeling about CLG. It's hard to see a team losing 3 out of 4 games, right, in this environment.
Yep.
That goes for us and it goes for them.
That's true. That's a good point.
But I just think, rhythm wise, if we keep everything up, we'll be fine. But I just get the feeling that maybe we'll hit a hiccup again and drop this game to CLG. So I've got us going 1-1 split in the week.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see next week what happens.
We'll see who's right.
We'll see who's right. Either way, hoping for some good games from the boys. Hoping for another someday clinic.
I am hoping with no crazy late game throw.
Yeah. Well, especially against Clutch, because there are plenty of late games that we can look at against that team, man.
Yeah. But man, just gonna say it again. Feeling good. I think this ANDA thing has worked out so far. It's early again. Never wise to make these judgments so quickly. But so far
so good.
So far, so good. And given everything that's taken place for the team, we're still tied for first. Let's act like it. Let's play like it.
Yep. Let's do it. Thanks to everybody who joined us this week. We will look forward to another show next week. And tell your friends, do whatever.
Smash the like button for Jordan's video quality upgrade.
I do
Doesn't
what I
he
can.
look handsome? He's more handsome than you ever thought.
I'm not just a pixely blur, it turns out.
Yeah, we actually
Washed
couldn't
out.
tell if you had eyebrows. It was crazy.
It's hard to make a judgment on someone's looks until you know if they have eyebrows or not.
That's right. That's right. Eyebrows confirmed. Let's do this again next week.
Like and subscribe. Eyebrows confirmed.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good week.
All right. See you guys later.